The
Beautiful.
content of this
And
meeting. Do I need
we
to
are
press
live.
OK?
So Anna, tell us when we're live. All I can
Yes.
see is the recording.
Okay, yes, we are live now.
Beautiful. Welcome, Joan. So lovely to see you.
Morning, morning.
Yeah,
Yes,
morning for you, evening for us. You're in the UK, so it's 8 o'clock in the morning.
it certainly is on a gorgeous day.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. The reason I asked you was because we actually wrote this book together. You actually edited this book. So this was your collaboration. This was your idea. And I remember when I was asked to contribute to this book, Leading from the Heart, I was like, oh my God, I will absolutely talk till the cows come home with this, because I talk a lot about leading with kindness. And for me, it was just a no-brainer to be part of that. But look, the reason Andrew and I, and this is really for the audience to understand what we do here, the reason that we came and started to do these lives was because Andrew and I both studied our psychology degree together, and we both work doing business coaching, leadership coaching, and really have realized over the years that so many people, so many leaders are put into a leadership role because they are great practitioners, great technicians, great at what they do. And then all of a sudden they're put into a leadership role, but no one's actually ever taught them how to be a leader. And Andrew and I were talking, and we said we should just start to share some insights and wisdom and frameworks and learnings around leadership. And we started this about a year ago. And that was the whole concept of it, is to continue to develop and grow leaders all around the world, because so many leaders are put into a leadership role. And I know you were accidentally an accidental leader as well. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about you. You have got such an amazing background. You are a beauty and spa expert. You're an award-winning educationalist. You are CEO and chair of the Hair and Beauty Industry Authority. You have written multiple books and collaborated on multiple books as well. And you are also a brand ambassador for World Skills, the UK. How impressive.
Do you think? I'm definitely an accidental leader, I think. Although it sounds like I break things and drop things all over the place as an accidental one. I'd say more I was a reluctant leader, or a scared leader, or a very lacking in confidence leader, which is exactly what you're saying, that so many people find themselves, I don't know, in those roles, and it was never ever what they intended. Absolutely, it's what I was. And I think it's when people say you've got to lean in and embrace every opportunity because you're scared and you think, oh no, I won't go for that. I think I was lucky that I had a secondment to begin with. And I thought, if I don't like it, or if I'm not very good at it, I will go back to, yeah. So that was, I'd always encourage anyone to take a secondment. I think mine was about a year because my boss went to do another job somewhere else. And then I got the opportunity to do his role. And I didn't think I would be able to do it. But as I say, everything is, you're always sort of not dragged into things, but actually, you wouldn't have pushed yourself maybe, but other people do, and they say, why don't you go for that?
Yes,
and whether they see something in you that you don't see yourself, because I mean, I was then a teacher and I never ever thought I'd want to be a teacher. So to do that was enough of a stretch and a challenge. And I think, as you said, maybe because people think you're doing an okay job, a good job, or you're have got a good work ethic, or all those different things, a good role model, then somehow you sort of you find yourself in either supervisory or management or director or things like that. And I think incrementally you just sort of work your way through, and then all of a sudden you go, I can't believe I'm doing what I'm doing. I know, because you never would have thought managing or leading, absolutely not, no way, 100% no way. But just bit by bit, and then you start to feel a little bit more comfortable, and you have all those opportunities, and you think, all right, so I've not dropped the ball yet, it's going okay. So yeah, so definitely accidentally, but perhaps more reluctant and, oh my God, scared, frightened of the whole thing, really.
Yeah, and I was reading some research not long ago from Gallup. So they just released their 2022 report, and it actually said that 84% of leaders have suffered imposter syndrome. You know, these, oh my gosh, I'm in this position. Will I be found out? Can I do it? Do I know what I'm doing? Am I confident? Am I capable? So there's that's real. And I coach a lot of people that have been in that space as well. But I also think the point that you're making is that we kind of have to find our way in leadership. There's 26 or approximately 26 core competencies that leaders need in order to be successful leaders, to be able to lead themselves, lead teams, and then lead into the future. Now, if you are that accidental leader or that reluctant leader or put into a leadership role because you're seconded or because someone else thought you would be great at it or because someone said do this and then you went okay, how do they learn those skills, right? If no one's ever taught them, it is a bit hit and miss and it's a bit sink or swim. And I feel that as leaders of leaders, we need to be providing leaders with the resources and the tools and the models and the frameworks they need in order to be successful as leaders. And the reason that I said, come and join us today was because I wanted you to share some of your lessons that you've learnt. And you said, Kylie, I've learnt so many, but I'm going to distill it to 7. So what's your first lesson?
Yeah, I think looking back to what you said just before, you can only model yourself on perhaps you learn from who you've been managed by before, don't you? So you know what good leaders look like. You know what you've probably had some really poor leaders, haven't you? So you've absorbed all that, haven't you? And then you think if ever I was in that position, I would be like that, and I'm not ever going to be like they were, you know. But I think my first lesson would be to keep it real, be authentic, because as you say, there's 20 odd, there's probably more, isn't there, values and actual attributes that you've got to have. I think there's probably hundreds actually to be successful, but you can only be yourself. And I think if you read and go on all these courses, if you're pretending to be somebody that you're not, it's never going to fit right with you, whether it's called authentic leadership, genuine leadership, or whatever. You've got to be, it can only be an extension of who you genuinely are. So, you know, I'm a people person, so my leadership would always be around people, because I think without your people, you've probably not got a business in many industries. So I think you can't pretend to be back in the 80s, big, you know, padded shoulders, you know, trying to be that masculine leadership. I think it's if you're a softer person and a people person, that's how you've got to lead. And if people think it's fluffy, people think it's weak, I absolutely think it's the opposite, that don't mistake kindness and a caring leader for a weak leader, because to me, you've got to be much stronger to actually get all those objectives and meet your targets, yet take your people with you and look after them and make sure they want to stay with the team and things like that. So, but people sometimes do think you are, if you're a caring, genuine sort of people person, you won't be able to meet targets. You're not one of those tub thumping, desk thumping leaders that will just be, you know, hard nosed and things like that. And I think we're in the book, when we spoke to Andrew about that psychological security and safety, that you know, all the millennials and Gen Z and everybody, it's come of its time, hasn't it? Actual people-centered, as you say, kindness, all those things. So I just think my first one would be yourself. Don't be anybody else. Everybody else is taken, as they say. You've got to be yourself and be that genuine, authentic leader. So I think that would be number one, because that would underpin everything, really.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And I think that's when you can be truly who you show up every single day. It's got to be hard to try and be someone at work and then be someone outside of work. That must be really draining for people.
Yeah. And I've known colleagues who've said, oh my goodness, I never ever wear the same things in my own life as I do at college. I've got to, or in the workplace, I've got to put this suit on. I've got to be, and sometimes you've got to feel a little confident. And if it makes you feel more business-like, to be that smart in a suit, but they would never ever wear their work clothes in their own life. And I was thinking, but it's you, it's you, so it doesn't matter does it? It's the same person. You're just having to do a different, a different role. And I think my sort of second one linked to that would be that who cares wins, really. That if you don't care, just step out the way and let somebody who does. I mean, I've had managers who've run really brilliant teams, absolutely people-centered manager, and then when they've left, someone's come in who doesn't like people, doesn't like clients, doesn't like staff, and the whole thing's fragmented. The staff are wanting to leave, and you just think, why are they in it? They're in it because they want to get to be CEO. They're just on a pathway. They're taking everything in their wake.
Destruction.
And it's just so sad, and you feel so sad for the staff and the clients and things like that, that you just think you don't really care. You don't care about, really genuinely care. You might pretend to and things like that. So to me it's that, again, it's that psychological safety that staff are looking for, that they can sort of give your opinion, they can criticize without repercussions, that you've got that open communication, and it's caring for your staff as well as, to me, your clients, and that you're serving them, and again, one of my points later on is about excellence. But surely if you've got a passion for the industry you're in, and you care about the staff, and the clients and your partners and everything like that, then it's got to be that care. That's why I suppose leading from the heart was about a compassionate leadership approach, a bit like you're leading with kindness. If not, let somebody else
do it.
Let somebody else do it.
Yeah. So number one, keep it real.
Get on with it.
So number one, keep it real. Number two, who cares wins, which is all about that compassion. What's number three?
Number three, when I was thinking, was because of the communication, to me, connection. I want to call it build your book. It's build your little black book.
Yeah.
Because to me, I'm a real keeper in touch, a real communicator, whether it's by email, phone, text, whatever. But to me, you've got to build that network and your little black book, because you never know when you need more staff, you need somebody to do a task or what have you. So I've just got hundreds, if not thousands, of contacts. I love keeping in touch. I love connecting, and so you'll never shake me off, Kylie. Now that we're in
I'm stuck with you now.
We're in touch, but I know.
Do you know what?
I think because I was in education, your staff, your teachers, your tutors are practically 99% of everything you've got as a business, and it'd be the same in other sectors. Without those excellent teachers, you've not got excellent results, achievements, staff satisfaction, student satisfaction. So you were always wanting to put other classes on, so you had to find experts. So whenever I found experts in anything, aromatherapy, business, counselling, nutrition, anything, I'd go, oh, have you ever considered teaching, and this, that and the other? Because I always thought one day I might need an expert like that. But it's the same with a web designer, isn't it, or an accountant or anything. You keep those connections and keep them for a long time.
I always talk about, that especially the higher you go up as a leader, one of your core pillars should be on building and maintaining relationships, because at that level, especially at the level that I work at, they need to get it done through their people. So if they don't have relationships, if they don't maintain those relationships, then how do they influence the people to get the results? Because it's the people that get the results. So I'm big on that too. And I remember years and years ago, like maybe 14 or 15 years ago, one leader saying to me, Kylie, always leave a company with the legacy you'd be proud of, because you never know who you're going to run and cross paths with at some stage in the future. And I do a lot of work in financial services, and that to me has been so true. It doesn't matter what organization that I go and consult in, there is always someone in there that I know. So for me, it is always about making sure that we are building and maintaining that relationships and really leaving a legacy that we would be proud of. So what's number 4?
And it's I was going to say that, going back to that one, it's part of your personal brand, isn't it? That you leave
For sure.
you leave them wanting more from you, and that your reputation should go before you. And people don't say, oh, she's a nightmare to work with or whatever, but it's like absolutely your integrity, your reputation, your legacy, absolutely. My number 4 links to that is kill them with kindness. So that's my motto. Sometimes if things are going wrong or whatever, you absolutely overserve. I always say in the workplace, complaints are like gold to me, because you think you know what's going on. You think the standard, the service, whatever you're providing, but one complaint comes in, and often there's no smoke without fire, as they say.
Yeah.
And so you can turn that complaint into your biggest fan, really, because of the way you deal with it, you listen to them, it gives you an insight, doesn't it? And from that client's experience, you thought everything was going fine, but actually there's a little chink in something there, isn't there, that you think, no, there's a little weakness there.
Yeah.
And I always think, you know what, some of them have turned into, as I say, your biggest fans, and they are a great client. They'll tell other people how you handled things like that. So I'd always say, definitely, whether it's an issue with staff, I'd overserve, I'd absolutely go, above and beyond to make sure, and always, rise. However anyone's driving you mad, whether it's a client or what have you, you've got to put that smile on your face, make sure you are kind, if anything, overdo it, and just go, right, I'm going to leave that legacy that many people don't think you'll ring them back. I get certain people wanting to speak about things. You ring them back, they're absolutely delighted in this day and age that somebody picked the phone up and returned their call. It's just a small thing, or returned their email, or just communicated with them. So all my points today are all very closely linked. But it's just, I think it's about serving. I love connecting, but I love that service as well, that you actually provide excellence, which is one of my other points as well. So I would always go a bit like you, leading with kindness, kill them with kindness, and then they don't know what's hit them, really, and just the legacy's left behind, isn't it?
Of course. And, if we lead with kindness first, I always say to my team, and even the clients that I work with, is when I'm giving feedback or when I'm providing whatever it is that we're working on, it's always with the right intention. Okay. So know that the intention is from the place of good, and then easily lead with kindness from that way, because they know that your intention is right. So everything you see or do or feel is from the right intention. So number 5.
It's genuine. Sorry. And that was
sorry, we have
kindness.
A bit of a lag, Joan.
Sorry, that was genuine kindness as well. So even if it's giving positive feedback, I'm a big believer in praise where it's due, but then if there's anything that needs to be addressed, because my next point is nip it in the bud. So I think there's not many things that can't be improved by nipping it in the bud. You may need to reflect and perhaps not take immediate action and things like that. Just decide whether things will wait till tomorrow, and it'll be a bit more clear, and you'll know what to do. But actually, most things nip in the bud. If you hear anything, don't take that, find out yourself, listen, because like the culture of a place, isn't it? It's much more important than strategy and things like that. Have an ear to the ground, find out what's going on. Don't listen to gossip and things like that, but just listen to what's going on, because sometimes there is some truth in certain things, and you might just need to find out yourself. But if there's anything that you do need to take action from, then do it. Always do it. And so many leaders, I think, sweep things under the carpet, and they just sort of would rather it'll sort itself out, or they just don't want to, they haven't got I suppose, the strength to do it, or the leadership capacity. I would always want to, if you don't nip things in the bud and tackle staff who perhaps there are some issues, all the other staff lose heart. And so, you know, if you're there and you think, you know what, nothing ever gets done, they are doing this, they're abusing the system, they're whatever. If you don't do that, your good staff lose heart, and then you may lose them because they just think, you know what, I don't get thought of any better when I'm doing a really good job than somebody who is just taking the mickey. So to me, nip things in the bud, ask questions, and just take some sort of action, even if it's small steps. To me, I think the whole thing of leadership is, it might be complex, but in certain ways it's simple, isn't it? Because you're trying to deal with integrity, do things that should be done, as you said, do it as you would want it to be done yourself as well. So difficult conversations have got to be had. How would you like that, you know, with your boss or what have you? Do it with, you know, be diplomatic. Don't show people up in front of team, you know, their team. But I think nipping it in the bud can stop a lot of things developing and getting so much worse.
Yeah. I and this is where I was talking about the competencies at the beginning of our chat this morning was, you know, leaders, the reason many leaders will brush it under the carpet or stick their head in the sand or not deal with it or not, as you say, nip it in the bud, is because they don't know how to. They don't know how to say it in the right way. This is where I talk about leadership being an opportunity to grow and learn. There's so many feedback frameworks out there. When we can help leaders to be able to have the conversation, they're much faster at nipping it in the bud, because they know how to. They feel more confident to be able to do it. And I always say it should happen within 48 hours. If you're observing some behavior, if you're observing something that does not sit right, have the conversation within 48 hours. Don't lose sleep over it. There are frameworks out there that help leaders have these conversations so that they can nip it in the bud and it can just clear the air, and now we're back on track. Not only that, we know that generation X, Y, and Z want feedback on a regular basis. So if we're not giving it, then how are they learning and growing from it as well? So I'm an absolute massive advocate for nipping it in the bud.
And you better to actually tackle the one person, because so many leaders just do a blanket approach, either a blanket email, right, we're all not doing this anymore, or we're going to do this, or I'm clamping down on that. And as I say, the others get hacked off because they go, why are we being penalised when there was one person who is spoiling it for everybody? You're better to go just that one person, aren't you? And just unpack it a little bit and just find out a little bit more. There might be genuine reasons why they are feeling
with curiosity. Go in with curiosity. Do you know, I see this in schools and it frustrates me, especially when my daughter comes home and says, you know, all the class had to stay back because of these naughty 3 people, or in after school care, or we all had a talking to because 5 people messed it up for everyone else. It frustrates me so much that I think, why didn't the teacher or why didn't the adult actually sit down with those 5 people or those 3 people and go, this is not acceptable, the impact this is happening, and this is the kind of change that I want to see. Why does everyone else have to be disadvantaged?
Exactly.
Right?
And if
be honest.
and if that's staff, they are going to get hacked off, aren't they? And go, you know what, you don't see the genuine ones that are working. My 6th one was sort of head for the stars, really. Excellence, aim high, because but you must tell your staff, you know, show them what excellence looks like, because you can't assume that they all know and what your standard is. They might genuinely think they're doing a good job, and you go, actually no, this is what. So if you don't show them that, but it's that excellence, and it could be about sweating the small stuff, because, you know, absolutely, you know, make sure the details, because that's the client experience, isn't it? The details, but really lay it out. You've got to show your staff, and especially in induction, in new staff, when you're onboarding them, you know, they'll need to know. They may have come from another organization that's got perhaps lower standards, you know, things like that. So just absolutely aim for excellence, and nip it in the bud and see if anyone who's not doing it. And my last point is, like you mentioned before, keep being curious. It's, to me, it's that sense of wonder, curiosity. Try and develop it in your staff, and it could be about in your sector, you know, who's the market leaders, what are they doing, you know, what are the clients wanting. Just keep learning, that lifelong learning, whether it's leadership or whether it's in the role you're in, you know, it could be what clients want, what the sector, be a front runner, you know, excellence, curiosity, find where it is, just really be curious, go up, have a plan, but go off plan, because it could be a better experience when you go off-piste a little bit. So, but just that whole sense of wonder and curiosity for life in general, but also in your role. Just keep sort of looking at the sector and who's doing well, what are clients wanting, what are staff, like you say, all the next generation, what are they wanting in a leadership role? Because if not, you're going to disengage them, aren't you? And going to have some disharmony in some respects.
One of the things that I say all the time around leadership is we need to be lifelong learners, right? So that doesn't mean that you need to just go and do a leadership program, or you need to get coaching, or you need to get mentoring. It could be that you're listening to podcasts, you're reading books, you're talking to other great leaders. You know, leadership is about the journey, it's not the destination. And even for leaders that I deal with that are seasoned leaders, that have been leaders for 10, 15, 20 years, they all know that they cannot continue to lead the way they used to, because the change is occurring. People want us differently. The generations need us differently. There is so much research out there that says we cannot do leadership like we done it 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We need to be constantly evolving and constantly learning. And I know that if I wasn't learning as a leader, then I absolutely would not be able to coach and develop all of the leaders that I do. I'm an avid learner. So go out there, leaders, and learn and grow.
And I think each stage that I've gone, I have been in a great organisations where I've been offered training and gone on courses and diplomas and masters and things like that. And you do learn a lot, but I learn much more from the stories, from the people that are on that. And I love that, listening to, you know, even outside of the sector you're in, you learn so much. And because I like people, I love to hear, you know, what they've gone through, some examples. So often, as you say, it's the more casual sort of learning that you, and now there's so many podcasts, isn't there? There's so much information, there's so many books. I keep buying books, and I sort of start and buy another one before I get to the end. And just self-help books. You're always wanting to be better, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Not against anyone else, but better than you were yesterday. You just want every day to sort of be improving, really.
I totally agree. I'm an avid reader. This year, 20 books is the limit that I want. Well, not the limit. That's the absolute minimum that I want to be able to read. I'm up to 16 so far, and I will absolutely continue to read the remainder. But I also do my own courses. I also continue to learn and listen to other podcasts. So I think, you know, as humans, we've got to keep being better than what we were yesterday, as you say.
Yeah. And,
you know,
and I think, there's just one thing as well, to also look after your own well-being, because if you are a bit frightened and a bit lacking in confidence, you often put a lot of hours in because you are trying to, you know, you feel like an imposter. So you've got to definitely have the downtime and know that there is a time when you put your pen and you know, your laptop down and things like that, and because if not, you've got to put your own oxygen mask on first, they say, don't they, before you can help others. And if you're worn out and completely frazzled, you're not going to be a good leader. So it's easier said than done. But you've got to bear that. And now this whole work-life balance is much more, you know, evident than it ever was 20 or 30 years ago, which is a really good thing.
Yeah. And again, one of the things that I'm often talking about is making sure we got boundaries around, you know, our family, our friends, our exercise, our health, our well-being, all of that. We need to make sure we've got all of that as part of. I don't actually like to see it as a work-life balance. I actually see it as work-life harmony. You know, for me, it is, how do I incorporate both my work and life together, especially when I'm a mum, I'm a business owner. I need to make sure I've got the harmony. There are days, weeks, probably months on end that I don't feel like I've got the balance. But I do feel like I've got harmony between, right, I'm giving some to my family, I'm giving some to me, I'm giving some to my business, all of that. And that feels more harmonic than balance does.
Yeah.
Joan, one of the questions that Andrew always asks our guests is, what's the one thing that you haven't said that you absolutely need to say before we close off today?
Maybe enjoy it. Enjoy it. You know, when people keep saying, don't keep saying, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Change it into, I get to do this, I get to do that, and I get to lead, I get to manage. Looking back, the dots are only linked, aren't they? Joined up when you look back. And when you look back on 20 or 30 years, you go, oh my God, all those things that were worrying you and that you didn't want to do, it was all leading you in the right direction. So you get to, how lucky we are. Gratitude, probably. It's gratitude, isn't it? We get to do this. How lucky we are to get to do this.
Yeah, life happens for me, not to me.
Absolutely.
Right?
The universe will always have our back. It's always your journey. What's for you won't miss you, will it? So I'm going to get a bit spooky now, but it's so important, isn't it? That spiritual side.
I agree. So to wrap it up, first one was keep it real. Number 2, who cares wins, which is all around that compassion. 3, build your little black book, network, build and maintain relationships. Number 4, kill them with kindness. Number 5, nip it in the bud. Number 6, head for the stars and aim for excellence. And number 7, keep being curious. Thank you so much, Joan. It was so lovely to speak to you and so thankful to have you in my world and also to be a part of something that was so truly inspiring for you to, release a book that really is about leading from the heart. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of it and coming and joining me today.
Thank you for having me on your Leadership Lounge. It's been great to speak to you, and I hope to see you soon in Australia, mate.